Happy Monday. I hope you had a good weekend. I guess you probably already watched the math video, but anyway, hope you had a good weekend anyway. Today we are working on lesson 11, which is going to be talking about graphic features and visual aids. So it's page number 5 down here. So we need that. You will need your Developing a Nation either booklet like this if you have it still, or you can go online to Benchmark and open it there. You also need a pencil, and if you have your paper booklet, you'll need a highlighter, or you can use a highlighter. The other thing we're doing today is we're taking our week 2, unit 7 week 2 test on Google Forms. The link will be where you got this video from. It'll be underneath the video. It's only one of those short ones. There's like 10 questions, so you can do the assignment first and then take the test. There'll be no IXLs today. It'll be the test instead. And it shouldn't take you too terribly long, and just make sure you read carefully. Read the questions if you can before you start reading the story. Take your time. You got this. And watch the rest of this for the rest of the lesson. Then you got this. So for lesson 11, our goal is to be able to explain how historic photographs, maps, and timelines support or extend information in a text. This is important because a lot of times the author gives us extra information that will help us have a better understanding of what we're reading through pictures, maps, timelines. I'm a visual learner. I like reading, but I also really like infographics and pictures and photographs and graphs and things like that, maps. Even right now, with the times we're with COVID, the thing I always go back to when I'm looking for new information is I like to look at the maps because that sticks in my brain better. So having these extra things along with what we're reading can help us to better comprehend what we're reading, to remember it, and to make some connections. So we'll get to work on lesson 11. So, lesson 11, here is our job. It says, look at the graphic features on pages 14 through 16. I'm going to highlight that. And 18 through 19. Theodore Judas said, a great railroad connecting the Atlantic with the Pacific Ocean is the most magnificent project ever imagined. And yet the Transcontinental Railroad was completed 7 years early. What factors contributed to this massive project being built so quickly? So we read about this, and now we're going to go in and we will look at the graphic features and see how they're supporting the text. And we might not do all of them, but we'll do quite a few. So our first thing says the map. Our map here, right? So we have, it's hard to see because it's crinkled over, but you have one in front of you too. It shows the railroad stretching across the U.S. And it just shows just how many states it crossed. So I'm going to think, okay, what part of the text, which paragraph does that help support? So I'm going to skim and look for where it talks about something that could do with this map. Because building a railroad across the country was a huge project. Well, I think it could support that, right? It's just showing you just how expansive this railroad is actually going to be. It's ginormous. I mean, it's crossing the majority of the country. So my part of the text that supports, I am going to copy this sentence. And if you're copying a sentence, you're going to put quotation marks around it, right? Because it's a quote from the story or the text. Building a railroad across the country was a huge, I shouldn't wrote it like that because it's not like that in this text, but oh well, project. And then I'm going to write down the paragraph. It was paragraph 6. And if you need to pause it there, write that down, that's fine. So now how it supports my understanding. Well, this map definitely helps me visualize the routes of the routes the two companies that worked in the railroad had to work on, right? And it talked about that more in paragraph 7. The Central Pacific Railroad Company and the Union Pacific Railroad Company. So the map helps you visualize the routes. And see how expansive. So expansive is huge, vast, big. It really was. And remember, feel free to pause this whenever to finish writing. So the second thing we're looking at is historic photograph on page 15. And it's down here. Can you see it? It's crooked. But it says 10 miles of track laid in one day, April 28th, 1869, near Promontory, Utah. So I'm going to go back and look in the text for where it talks about 10 miles of track in one day. And right here it does. It says, however, the Central Pacific team refused to be beaten. They announced that a special team of workers would lay 16 kilometers or 10 miles of track per day of work. The men were promised 4 days' pay for 1 day. By 7 p.m., they had put down their tools as they had laid 16.1 kilometers or 10 miles and 56 feet of track. So, I think that's what that marker is for. That would make sense there. So the part of the text that it supports would, in 1 day, they laid 10 miles and 56 feet of track. So I'm going to put an ellipse there, those 3 dots, because I'm taking out some of the sentence. And right, they had laid 10 miles and 56 feet of track. And that was in paragraph 10. So the photograph just emphasizes like how crazy that was, right? How extraordinary that was. They even put up a memorial sign plaque, right? The photograph emphasizes how extraordinary 10 miles of track in 1 day was. So if you want to pause there, go ahead. We'll do one more together and then you guys can work on the last 2. And I'm going to let you guys on your own do 16 and 18. The photograph on page 16, that was this one. And the painting on page 18, that one. And we'll do the timeline together, so page 18 through 19. So let me put this up so we can see a little better. It's kind of hard to read, but you should have yours in front of you too. So it's a transcontinental railroad timeline. In 1830, the first steam locomotive, Tom Thumb, was built. 1848, gold was discovered in California. 1860, Theodore Judah maps railroad route. 1862, President Lincoln signs the Railroad Act. 1869, workers lay a record 16 kilometers or 10 miles of track in 1 day. In 1869, the railroad is completed 7 years early. So I remember from reading this before, in the beginning it had talked about the gold rush in California. It talked about the Railroad Act of 1862 that President Lincoln signed, how they were meeting in the middle, the Union Pacific Railroad and the Central Pacific Railroad, and then how it was finished early. So the timeline really encompasses this whole story. So I'm just going to say it's pages 12 through 19, because it is. It describes everything in the story. So now why did they throw that timeline in there? Well, this is a quick glimpse to see the major points in building the Transcontinental Railroad, right? But it also shows the fact that it was completed so early. So I'm going to say it shows the important points in the railroad's history, and that it was completed early. So now what you're going to do is you're going to go back, look at the picture, the photograph on page 16, the painting on 18, quick skim through the paragraphs. Which paragraphs are those two text features describing? And then how did it help you understand? There's really not a wrong answer here as long as it makes sense with whatever paragraph you found. Different text features help people understand things in different ways. So maybe something would pop out to me in this painting that wouldn't pop out to you. But as long as it's helping us comprehend what we read, that's fine. So stay tuned and I'll tell you what I accept. Hey there, guys. So today you will be working on your first test over distance learning. It said text features and week 2 test. So you did the text features thing already, and now you're going to take the test. Just going to click on the Google form. We've done this before. Make sure you put your name in. The story is Gold Fever in the Klondike. It's pretty interesting, actually, especially if you like what is that show called? Gold Rush? Anyway. So before you even read this, I would go down and skim the questions. So question 1A, which sentence states a main idea of the passage? So we're looking for main idea. 1B, choose two sentences. Two sentences from paragraph 1 that best support the main idea in part A. So to do this, you'll pick, this would be sentence 1. I'm going to choose it, whatever I think will fit my main idea. I'm not picking the right answer. I'm not even reading the questions. So don't just do what I do. Sentence 2, you're going to have to put something for each of them. Okay? 2A, how does the author organize and present most of the information in this passage? So problem and solution, comparing and contrasting, asking questions and then giving answers, or explaining how to find something and then giving examples. 2B, which 2 sentences again from the passage illustrate the structure identified in part A, so 2. So I have to pick one for sentence 2. According to the timeline in the text, what important event happened in California as a result of the 1849 gold rush? So I'm going to look for an important event that happened after the gold rush, because as a result. Choose 3 inferences that can be drawn from the sequence of events described in the passage. So I'm just going to pick one for each of them. Inference 1, inference 2, inference 3. Remember, inferences are, when it's a nonfiction inference, it's something you read, something you already know. It doesn't come right out and say it. You're kind of drawing a conclusion about it from what the text said. Which town served the miners going to the Klondike and then disappeared? I'm just going to go back, look for these names. Look for something about the miners and the Klondike with them. So carefully read that. Just don't guess. This is one that you can easily go back and find the text. Which sentence from the passage best explains why so many miners did not survive on the way to the Klondike? So why did they die before they made it there? Okay. So what made it hard to get to the Klondike? What is the meaning of sub-zero in paragraph 4? That's where you're going to use synonyms. What would make sense there? And it also has one of the prefixes that we talked about this week. So what does that prefix mean? And what is the meaning of intentional in paragraph 3? So that's another prefix one. Intentional. What words can you shove in there? So it's before, above, within, between. Oh, I think it's supposed to say international, actually. Let me go back and check. Paragraph 3. Yeah, it's not supposed to say intentional. It's supposed to say international. So international. And I'll see if I can go back and change that in the test. And if I can't, just remember this video. So international. This was a prefix we used. Inter. What did inter mean? And then last one. According to the timeline, about how long after gold was discovered in the Klondike did Americans hear about it? So I'm going to go back up to my timeline, and I'm going to check out when it started and then when Americans heard about it. And then I'm going to do some math there. I'm going to count up from 1849 or whatever it is. When that's not 1849, that's when the California Gold Rush began. So in the Klondike. So I'm going to, if I was doing it here, I would subtract 1849, but you will count up or subtract to find the answer. And it's about how many. So, okay. So that's the first test. Take your time, do your best. If you have any questions, get a hold of me. Yeah. Otherwise, have fun the rest of the day. Read something. Okay. Talk to you later.